Folks, we're live. I'm your host, Dash B, and with me today, I've got a couple of regulars and a new face.
Oh, can I move?
Yes.
Yes, you can move now.
That
Do
was,
my co-hosts want to introduce themselves?
Yes, I am Lizzy Hedgehog. Hello.
All right.
I'm Fire Pilot, formerly known as the Red Beaver Gamer, until it goes back.
All right. And his camera continues to creep upward.
It's scared me apparently.
I don't know. We also do have a special guest today. We have Brendan Becker, also known as Inverse Phase. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Since my lower third isn't working, it said some chiptune idiot. I write music with old computers and consoles, and you could call it 8-bit or chiptune or chip music. There's like a whole bunch of words to call it, but basically it's stuff that sounds like flip flop. And I decided like 10 years ago that I would specialize in only this, and it has been a hell of an adventure.
Yeah.
Where can we find you at?
Sorry?
Where can we find your music at?
Oh, I'm up at inversephase.com, and it's just a giant pile of links. So I'd rather you buy on Bandcamp, and I'd rather you listen on either Spotify or Google Play. But if you don't have one of those, or you've got a gift card and you want to blow it on some of my stuff, I'm definitely not going to stop you from using it on like Amazon or iTunes. So.
Yeah, I've given his stuff a listen, and folks, it's definitely worth it. You guys know I would not have a guest on the show unless I thought that they were the real deal. So this is not the first time that we've had a chiptune artist on the show. We previously have had Curious Quail, where the bass guitarist totally handed me my ass in Mario Kart. So
Seems to be a common trend among
also,
video game related acts. Mario Kart beatings.
yes.
We just
Also,
got an update from the Pugmire.
yes.
It's official. I hate Windows 10s. I can't do anything. Well, that's not the first time that's been said on the show.
All right. I translate that as meaning he's gonna be a little bit late joining the show. So. That said, for those of you who are, maybe thinking, should I stay, should I go? Okay, we don't have Pugmire, but you know what we do have? We have a special surprise for our one Canadian viewer. But you're going to have to hang on to see what that surprise is.
Oh dear.
So, also, a little bit later, we're going to play a special game called Would You Rather, where neither option is something that you would like to have, but you have to pick the lesser of the two evils. So, but before that, we do have some news topics. So, Jeremy, I think you want to start us off with those.
So the other day I was on SEGA Nerds, and a special somebody actually was a spotlight guest. Anybody cares to guess who it was?
I'm gonna guess it was Pugmire.
Close, but it was Lizzy actually made it. We have a link here. You want to tell us about it, Lizzy?
Yes. SEGA Nerds are a bunch of really nice guys who really enjoyed hearing my brain tumor story. So I got to share with them more in depth of my story, everything I went through before they found the brain tumor, everything I kind of struggled with to actually, when they finally found it. Basically, some struggles I had afterwards, recovery, things like that. And then I also briefly got to mention how Sonic the Hedgehog, how his video games and comics and everything played a big role in my recovery. So I'm really happy I got to share that because I really wanted to reach, the brain tumor community, but also people out there who are dealing with like cancer and other things who might be feeling like, this is really like don't be scared that it might kill you, because when they found my brain tumor, they didn't find it until like almost 2 weeks till it would have spreaded to my body, and that would have just been horrible. So the fact that I survived it, I want to give that positive message to people out there to know, hey, they found it 2 weeks before it would have spread it. So, I'm still here. So definitely.
Yeah, we're definitely glad that you are. Folks, we're going to have a link to that article down in the doodly-doo post-show. For those of you that don't want to wait, can't wait, you can actually, the link is available right now on our Facebook page. as well as we've shared it on our Twitter. So if you haven't checked it out, go ahead and check it out. It's a nice feel-good story. Jeremy, I think we have another topic as well, right? From you.
Yes, the voice actor of Scrooge McDuck recently passed away at 96, Alan Young.
Yeah, Alan Young. You know, I gotta say, I know a lot of people kind of, panned the the voice acting in the recent DuckTales Remastered, and having actually played the whole game through to completion, I can't understand why. I mean, yes, it didn't sound exactly like in the cartoons, but still, like, it was the same guy. And if you played the game for more than 5 minutes, you forgot that it wasn't exactly the same as in the show. To me, just the fact that the guy was still around at the time that DuckTales Remastered was made, a year or two ago, the fact that he was willing to come on board and do it, I mean, that's just amazing. When I played DuckTales Remastered, it was one of the few games that I played recently that made me feel like I was that little kid at home in my living room, right? Like just trying to get a couple more minutes in of Nintendo before my dad said, "You're not in bed already?" So, but I don't know. So I think in that case, the haters were just hating for no good reason. So I'm definitely, moment of silence for, somebody that was great.
For Alan, not so young anymore.
96 is a good age, though. That's really good age.
Yeah, he definitely, I would say he lived a full life. Another story, and I don't mean this to be a downer, but I do want to mention it because I want to make sure that we're supporting, folks in our YouTube community and stuff, especially. But Carter Mason, who was a YouTuber and very involved in the indie scene, he started a website. The website's no longer running, but for a while he was running a subscription site that was called JST.TV, which was Just the Story. It was one of the first and only at its time subscription-based services where you could go and pay. I think it was like $3 or $2, and you could basically get a subscription to stream an unlimited amount of independent, content and films, commercial-free. And a cut of that revenue went to the different people who had submitted their independent material to air on his channel. So it was really cool. He tried to knit the indie community together in a way that few others had really tried to do. The monetization that he layered on top of it, he tried to do in a way that gave back to the very community that he was trying to knit together. Unfortunately, however, he just recently he was not as successful as Lizzy. He lost his fight with cancer and passed. So there's currently a GoFundMe that I'll link down in the doodly-doo. If you would like to help those that are kind of not only mourning his passing, but trying to figure out how are they going to pay for things like burial costs and things like that. There's a GoFundMe. You can go read more about it, find out a bit more about him, and if you contribute to that, I'm sure that his family and his friends would greatly appreciate the support and assistance. So I want to make sure that I gave a shout out for that. So on to other topics, however, we have some really, really interesting tidbits that we've picked up along the way, and now's about the time that we would be showing them off. So I'm not going to show the front side of this yet. We'll wait and see. You know that it's a Nintendo game. But Lizzy, I'm curious what you got, and I'm willing to place money that it's Sonic related or Sega at the very least.
Well, one of them is Sega related.
Yes.
You want a cookie? Okay, the first Sega related one. I got the Lion King complete in the box, and it even tells me who had it before. Some company named, or back in the day when there used to be like independent old video stores. So.
And that's Wenatchee, Washington.
Yeah. Easy Street. So I'm really happy. I got that complete. Sonic, forgive me, but I found it for $4 complete. Even has the little stuff inside of it. Couldn't pass it up.
$4 complete is an absolute steal for that game.
I see
Yes, it
Paul
is.
judging you from behind you.
Oh,
He doesn't look very happy.
I got this. Unfortunately, when I got it, I thought it came with the little sleeve and the manual, but then they told me, "Oh, I'm sorry. I think there was a
Card only.
misunderstanding. It's only card only." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." So I finally got Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. So I'm happy about that. And my favorite I did get Little Nemo the Dream Master.
That is
With
an excellent game.
yes. I lost it because someone borrowed it, never got it back, so that, made me mad. So I wanted it again, but I was like, no, I have to have it the way I had it. So it had to come with the sleeve. I wasn't going to accept anything else.
All right, so tangent time though, right? Like, as excellent as that game is, two things. One, it's ridiculously hard for a game that's so cutesy and clearly targeted at kids. And
Mm-hmm.
number two, am I the only one that finds it totally disturbing that the game begins with some weird, creepy little old man going, "Come here, kid, I want to give you some candy."
Yes, because isn't that what they taught? Don't take candy from strangers, especially dirty old men.
Yes, and it's all undone by the opening intro for that game.
Uh-huh. But I love the game, but I remember when I played when I was little, I couldn't beat it. I'd maybe get to like one little level and then, he'd wake up and then he'd jump back into his bed, go to sleep and go into the next level. That game was hard, but now that I'm older, I'm like I want to play that game over again and hopefully beat it and then get mad at the end and be like, "Oh, this was all just a dream, just like Mario 2."
So Brendan has been actually he's been providing some extra details about that other game that you had. I think it was the Lion King one.
Yes. What about my Lion King?
So go ahead and share, Brendan. What did you find, Mr. Private Eye?
I just Googled it fast. It is a grocery store. So you probably have a grocery store game rental
Woo!
rather than a video store. And according to Google, like the first 4 results. This might just be because I'm really into pizza, but they're a fine purveyor of frozen pizza. Like Red Baron and Tony's are at the top of the list.
Oh my gosh.
So
Interesting.
Nice. Do you enjoy bacon?
Complete. But it's complete.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh no, I'm saying, but the game's complete, so I can forgive the whatever that funky store was about.
Yeah. Now I have to say though, back in the day, right? I remember grocery store rentals, rental shops, and I mean that was genius because when I was a kid, I was always hoping that we'd go to a grocery store that at least had a rental shop because there's never the only things that brought me joy in the grocery store when I was a kid was running over to the magazine aisle and maybe there's a Game Pro or maybe there's a Nintendo Power that I
Yeah.
can kind of paw through while I'm waiting for my parents. And if there wasn't that, it was maybe there's a rental store where I can look at all the games my parents will never buy for me.
Yeah, that's actually years and years, many moons ago, we used to have a Randall's. And Randall's many years ago, along with Kroger's, they used to have their own little video stores inside their area. So my parents used to say, "Go to that section, we'll go shopping." So that way my parents could avoid me throwing stuff in the cart that they didn't
Oh
want.
man.
So this was their way to say, "Okay, you can rent a game or a movie
Yeah.
if you stay away from our cart." So that was the deal.
I would say that's a good.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh,
I
I was
almost knocked over my water bottle.
going to shop for 30 minutes for canned goods, and so I would just be looking at the back of videos.
Yeah, my parents are pretty cool about that. They were like, "Okay, go. Did you find anything you want to rent?" Yeah, and then you look at the games and you're like, "Can I have this many?" And they're like, "No, pick 2." You're like, "Ah, shoot."
My goodness. So, do we have any comments on the Twitter, Jeremy? Are you following the Twitter at all, or no?
Yeah. I'll try and help Tyler right now.
Ah, okay. I don't know. He's using Windows 10. I don't know that he's. I think I don't know.
Our Twitter?
So yeah, I made a statement last week that we would actually monitor the Twitter during the live stream in case anybody wanted to give some comments and stuff.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, retro _podcast. is our Twitter. So if anybody's watching and wants to kind of send us a shot or has a question.
I don't see the link to it. The
No?
live link to it? No. The last message you posted was 21 hours ago. Shame on you.
Well, that's today. That's the last message that I posted, but earlier this weekend. So maybe everybody's forgotten about it.
Super Geek
Our one Canadian viewer maybe is desperately trying to get in touch with us because he wants to know what that surprise is, but it's not time for the surprise yet. So the one Canadian viewer has to wait.
I will make it 2 Canadian surprises, and maybe that will even go up more.
Oh my goodness. Maybe we'll get 2 Canadian viewers for the 2 Canadian surprises. Or maybe the second Canadian viewer is the surprise.
Do we
I guess folks are just going to have to stay tuned and find out. So, Jeremy, did you have any pickups, my friend?
Oh, crap. Okay, so I'm going that. Yeah. So my friend, 2 weeks ago, he actually sent me Project Snowblind for PS2. Zachary, I'll give him a shout out. It's a frequent shooter because he's like, you ever play it? I was like, I never heard of it. He's like, what's your address? Gave him my address, and it was here a week later.
Awesome. Is this Zachary from our parents' basement, or is this a different Zachary?
Different form, different.
All right. So this is not Zachary Morris of Our Parents' Basement, which is another cool podcast that you guys should check out. So it used to be known as Retro Reload East Coast Edition, but that whole crew, moved on and started a new podcast, which you should definitely check out. They talk about a lot of things geek culture, not just games. So I'm going to go ahead and show my pickup. I only have one. You can always tell, like, last week I had, like, Stacko pickups. This Stacko movies are not my pickups. Those are just there for decoration because they look neater than my refrigerator. But I picked this up off the eBays.
What is that?
The Battle of Olympus. I picked up for the NES. So, unfortunately, I was not able to find it with manual and with sleeve for a decent price. So I ended up getting it cart only, but I am planning on going back and getting the manual at some point. So I understand this is a really good game. Never played it. Interested to give it a shot. Anybody here played it?
No, never heard of it.
You played it, Brendan?
It's basically, well, it's going to remind you a lot of Zelda 2 because
okay.
a lot of the engine has been. I think they actually licensed the engine. I'm not sure. But the whole like side-scrolling Zelda thing that everyone hated because they wanted just an overhead, adventure Zelda. But that stuff's all in there.
Gotcha.
So.
Interesting. Did you enjoy it?
It was fun. Yeah, I mean, so thinking like when I played it, it was so long ago that like you're just really like. At the age that I was playing it, I was just sucking in all of the games, and just trying to play everything I could get my hands on. And some of it, like stuck, and I wouldn't say Battle of Olympus stuck with me, but I remember it being like fun to play.
Gotcha. You don't remember rage quitting from it?
No, not really. I didn't get a whole lot of time with it, and spoilers. I was a Sega Master System kid. So whenever I was playing Nintendo games, I was probably either renting or borrowing a Nintendo. So it was like my time was really short. So I was just like really trying to jam on stuff. I wouldn't rage quit because it's like, well, I'm gonna take the Nintendo back tomorrow or the next day or whatever. So like I just didn't really. I was just sucked in. I just wanted to play. And then back to Master System stuff. I'd rage quit on Master System stuff.
Gotcha. What are your favorite games on Master System?
Okay, so Wonder Boy series, especially 2 and 3, solid. I played so many hours of Wonder Boy 2 or Wonder Boy Monsterland or whatever you want to call it. That was really good. I never actually beat Wonder Boy 2 as a kid, anyway.
Unless you get to go back and go beat it.
Yeah, well, I finally did. But Wonder Boy 3, I got not too long after Wonder Boy 2, and actually Wonder Boy 3 has the last stage of Wonder Boy 2 in it, and you play that as an intro, and then they continue the story. So Dragon's Trap, Dragon's Curse, if you played the TurboGrafx PC Engine version, that was a serious story. game. But another one that I really liked was East, which a lot of people thought was pronounced Wise because it was like Y apostrophe S on the box improperly or whatever.
So that must be what that song was referring to when it said, are you reeling in the E's?
I mean, yeah, probably indirectly.
Indirectly, gotcha. So let me ask you a question. You had some pickups too, didn't you? Although they may not be gaming related.
Yeah, so not gaming related, but I'm going to shout out Team Canada. This wasn't really actually acquired this past week, but since I haven't been on the show before, I think we're going to be able to make
We'll count it. We'll count it. No matter what it is, we'll count it.
So, are we spoiling it for Team Canada? Let's. I have a box of this stuff.
Ooh.
Craft dinner. Wow.
So I'm kind of a weird flavor person. So I'm actually going to. You probably can't see. Maybe you can. It says extra cheesy or whatever. So I'm going to compare it to
Thick.
American version, which is mac and cheese extra creamy or thick and creamy or whatever. Extra
Gotcha.
versus thick and creamy something. But yeah, so there's that. Was that not the one I was supposed to spoil? Was I supposed to show people the wheat thin?
Wheat thins? What the?
And this
Oh wait, what's that? Limited edition.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna count it, but I think limited edition. So wait, what do they tell? What makes it limited edition? Is it the?
I think that they're not going to make these thin wheat thins ever again because it costs too much.
Special flavor?
Wait a minute. Those are.
They taste like regular wheat thins.
Just thinner.
Like potato chip thin instead of like wheat thin, like cracker thin.
So thin. They make thinner wheat thins.
Thin wheat thinners.
Wheat thinners. Interesting. So let me ask you a question. Are you going to keep the limited edition box?
Oh, of course.
You going to keep it, put it up on display, maybe up in the upper right-hand corner. It looks like there's some room there that you might be able to prominently display that.
Like I could put it over, yeah.
That is excellent. You know what? I think I can't really judge. I've saved weirder things.
Here, maybe I could just hang it, like. No.
So now that my son is into like crafting and all this other stuff, I find us not being able to throw away like empty jugs, and we're not able to throw away boxes and paper towel, the rolls after you're done with the roll. You got the tube there left. I can't throw any of that stuff away because it ends up turning into like some kind of robot or some karate dummy or something very, very ingenious and MacGyver-y.
You know what I really liked making out of like TP and paper towel roll tubes was making marble tracks. I remember
Really?
bending them, like you could cut a little notch in a toilet paper tube or whatever and bend it to be like an L bracket type thing.
Yeah.
Typically use it instead of using like PVC or whatever, but then I went to like Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that and just bought the surgical tubing that was big enough to roll a marble in and started making more elaborate things. But I mean, the toilet paper tubes could be a cool thing, and you just kind of fold the end a little bit and jam it in the other one.
Very interesting. We're incredibly off topic, but I think I can work us back on topic because speaking of incredibly elaborate and intriguing things, your music, my friend, it's chiptunes. So do you want to describe a little bit for us, for the unwashed masses, what are chiptunes and how's it different or similar to other kinds of music?
Okay, well, we're already talking about old Nintendo and Sega games, so it's just, to be really simple about it, it's the music from those games. Except not the music from those games because I'm writing new music or rewriting old music or remixing or whatever. But basically, it's chiptune has evolved into something a little bit different. But basically, I am using old sound chips, like say the sound chip out of a Genesis, or the sound hardware in a Nintendo, or a sound chip in an old Intellivision or Atari or whatever. And I know the commands to send to those chips to get music, and so like the thing that the programmer that wrote the game would have written to play the music that his musician gave him during the game. So I'm just working with that part of the code. And then I've got a tracker which kind of looks like a spreadsheet with a play button. And I can either load up the sounds or connect that tracker to, say, an emulator for one of those systems, or connect it to hardware, and just basically write everything in this spreadsheet-looking thing. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like sheet music, but I don't know how to read that anyway, so it's no big deal. And and like write stuff down the rows and columns of the spreadsheet. Hit play. It sends it out to the sound chip. You hear what it sounds like, and you just kind of write and revise, and eventually you come up with stuff that just sounds like old video game music. But it could be something that you just wrote, brand new, or it could be like I could even like go and rewrite, like, say, the music from Zelda from scratch, which is what I'll do at, like, I do workshops at conventions and that sort of thing. And so, like, we'll write a song that's familiar, and I'll start from the ground up and be like, why doesn't this sound like Zelda? Oh, well, it turns out they did this thing, and then it starts sounding more and more and more like the original until you end up with the real thing. So that's another example of something I do. Probably my current claim to fame is that I did this with the entire first Nine Inch Nails album. So
Wow.
I took all of Pretty Hate Machine, and then turned it into, like Nintendo, Commodore 64, Atari, Sega Master System, like all of those systems used one per track, and then put it all together and assembled it the same way that Pretty Hate Machine was assembled, and then called it Pretty 8 Machine. And so
Very
That's
clever.
pretty talented to do all that.
So how much of that, is, using tooling that's available out there? How much of that is you, sitting down and like writing, no kidding, like 6502 assembler and that kind of thing?
So I'm very fortunate that I don't have to use 6502 assembler to really do what I do. I could probably run and get it while everyone's chatting, but I have a board that my housemate and I designed that's about like 4 inches square or whatever, and it's driven by an 8-bit AVR, which is kind of similar to the core of like the Arduino or something like that. And we can put in chip in the middle of it and then wire up the wires to the pins on the chip, and like basically control any of these old sound chips with the exact same board. So I've got a whole bunch of them with, I've got one with a SID. I've got one, and the SID's the sound chip in the Commodore 64. I've got one with a Pokey out of an Atari 800. I've got one with an SCC, which is a weird, obscure sound chip that was in like a couple Konami games, and that's it. But I really like Konami and like that sort of like 8-bit Metal Gear era. That was really cool. So that's something I use. I've got one with an AY, which is the sound chip that was in like the Atari ST and the Intellivision. And so like basically, I've just got access to like all of this hardware. I mean, you could just bust open a console and like pull it out of the socket or desolder it or whatever. Radio Shack, actually, back when Radio Shack existed and before they sold cell phones,
When they were really Radio Shack, yeah.
when they were actually Radio Shack, not like the cell phone shack or whatever. You could like buy some of these like just in like a little like plastic package for like $10. And so excuse me. So I have emulators for the chips, and then I've got the regular like the actual chips and whatever, and my life is spent like just dicking around with all of this hardware trying to get it to play some semblance of music. So it's kind of weird, right? When you've got like a synthesizer gearhead or whatever, like half of the time is spent, just like trying to come up with something interesting sounding, and the other half of the time is spent writing music. But that's probably a good example of. Does that answer your question?
That absolutely answers the question. I'm going to take a little moment to kind of segue. I'm gonna do the first question in the would you rather, which would you
Oh,
rather
okay.
do
Here we go.
type thing. Well, we'll throw this out to everybody. But I'll start it with you since you're our special guest, right?
Oh dear.
Um, so the first question that I have, right, is if you had to be killed, if you had to be killed, and it was going to be by a video game character, right?
Oh God. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If a video game character was going to kill you, would you rather be killed by the Cheetah Girls,
Okay.
right? So we played that game. That's like Raven Simone and her friends and all that other stuff from the show. So the game based on the show. So would you rather be killed with cuteness by the Cheetah Girls, or would you rather be killed by Jakku from Ninja Gaiden 2?
Huh. I mean, I guess killed with cuteness would at least be a pleasurable experience before the end. You know, like you die happy, so to speak.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. So
I don't know.
Jeremy, what about you? Which would you rather?
The same. The cuteness.
Cheetah Girls? Okay. What about you, Lizzie?
Oh, I don't go that way. But I gotta say, cuteness is probably better because then you'll be like, "Ee, it's so cute." Dead.
Okay. Well, I guess here we go. I'll switch it up slightly for you, right? Would you rather be killed by?
One Direction.
Oh,
I was gonna say Marky Mark
or
from
the
from the Marky Mark mix your own music, on Sega CD. Would you rather have Marky Mark kill you by mixing his own music, or would you rather have the what was the other option that I gave, Jeremy? Not the Cheetah Girls. Jakku from Ninja Gaiden. The guy that's like the weird, crazy, ugly dude that like has all these spinny knives and claws and teeth that like drip blood and everything.
Well, at least with him, it would be quick. It'd be a
That's
quick death.
horrifying death, though.
Yeah,
There
but
we
it's
go.
quick.
There we go. You know what? I gotta hand this round. I gotta hand this round to Lizzie because Lizzie's willing to look gruesome death in the face and go, I ain't scared of you. So, alrighty. Back on topic though. And this is like a total topic jump. You talked before about the tech in chiptune and what chiptune is and all that kind of stuff, Brendan. But I guess what I'm curious about is when did you first get into chiptunes as a form of music, and what inspired you most then, and what inspires you the most now as you work on chiptune music?
Okay. So I've probably been writing or messing around with music since I was a kid, like 7 years old or something like that. First, my first access to music software, or like the ability to do any sort of music on computer or console, was probably around then, and I had a copy of Music Construction Set from Electronic Arts, and this like piece of crap XT that was like this old 4 megahertz DOS machine. So the thing that was amazing about it was that you could get polyphony out of the internal speaker, which most people, if you're old enough to remember computers of that era, all the computer did was beep, and that's it.
Okay.
You could get different tones of beeps, but like just a single beep of a single tone at a time, and that's it. And like this software, for some reason, was able to get like 3 different sounds at a time, and that was kind of mind blowing to me. So I would mess with that and try and do things, and then I kind of fell into the background, and I tried to learn to program in BASIC, but that only gave me the single voice. So like oh gosh,
Are you talking QBasic?
Yeah, we're like, well, not even QBasic, GW Basic. Uh,
Ah, okay.
like in the DOS, like 3.2 days and stuff like that. It was pretty rough. But yeah, like I wrote some theme songs for some like really dumb basic games, and learned how that worked. And then just kind of fell out of writing music again. I took like Piano for Dummies, or like Yamaha Keyboarding 1 or whatever it is, where they teach you on this like electric organ that isn't really a multi-tiered organ, it's just a piano. Um, and
Did you ever try Miracle Piano for the Nintendo or Super Nintendo?
I wanted to, but since I wasn't an NES kid, um, I,
Oh, that's
I
right.
didn't have access to that. One of my friends did actually, and I messed around with that a little bit, and it was fun. But like by that point, I wasn't working with sheet music anymore. By the time Miracle was a thing, I went to a computer show, which is kind of like, for lack of a better way to put it, a gun show at the mall, or like an LP.
I remember those. Yeah.
It's
That's a
it's
good way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to a computer show, and this guy had a computer with a sound card, and it just blew me away. Like listening to like a sound card make like real music and whatever. And at that same computer show, I'm like, I'm this kid. I'm 11 years old, and I'm telling them how to like build my 286 that I'm going to pay for with my own like hard-earned money mixed with some of my Christmas money, and like stuff like that. And right across from where I'm buying my computer is this guy with the sound card. And so, like the entire time, I asked the guy if I could build the computer instead of him building it. And again, pictures like 11-year old kid being like, "Can I do it?" Or something like that. Um, and the entire time, this computer is across from me, like playing music. And like for Christmas that year, I got a sound card, so I actually had a sound blaster. And like I got into trackers and all of that. So that was like 11 or 12 years old. Like suddenly I'm jolted in this other direction where I'm writing music with the like the spreadsheet with a play button app instead of like sheet music. And I just never got back into playing traditional instruments, or reading regular sheet music or any of that.
Yeah.
It's
And for
weird.
folks that are watching, our younger viewers that are watching, app didn't mean the same thing back then as it means now. So he wasn't like touchy swipey swipey on his phone. It was more typey typey. What the heck does that symbol mean? Tap 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 enter.
Yeah.
So
Um,
that's impressive. So what inspired you the most?
so yeah,
In
I
the
forgot
kind
that.
of music that you make.
So I mean, I grew up on video games. They'd been there all of my life. I had, my first system was a 2600. So I got to see the progression of games, get better, and music get better, and all of that. And it was just, I mean, it's just inspiring to see technology change and grow, I guess. And since that was, I mean, like I had a boombox with a CD player and a tape deck, but like if music was much more prevalent in games, because I was usually playing games, and in the era of NES and Atari games and whatever, it's not like you could just turn the soundtrack off like you can now, or turn the music volume down and keep the sound effects on, or anything like that. So the music was just an integral part of the game, and I just got so into the soundtracks to all of these games and whatever. And video game music has just been so.
So which games in particular? Any games that kind of influenced you more than others?
I mean, anything, but Koshiro was a big influence, and Hiptonica was a big influence, and gosh, I mean, really, it could just be anyone. Like almost all of the Konami soundtracks just had this certain sound where you could just like recognize tricks that they were doing, and it's like, oh, this is Konami game. But then all of the Capcom soundtracks, like had this really upbeat, like almost bouncy, quality to them and everything. And it's like they were all different composers in all of these games, like that
Yeah.
still kind of managed to create a sound for their company, and I thought that was really interesting. Almost kind of like a label that picks certain kinds of music, but then you listen to stuff that from later in their catalog, and it sounds completely different, or whatever. But like, yeah, I'm getting way off topic. The point is just that, like all of that was, it was just huge for me. Like, it was my access to music. I mean, like I said, I would listen to the radio all the time and whatever. But games, the music would change as you progress in the game, and you couldn't wait to hear what the next level sounded like and whatever. There was just
Yeah.
like, there's an extra dimension to music in games that wasn't there when you're listening to music on the radio. And so as time progressed, and because I was getting into music at the same time as listening to game music, which was the one that had the most impact on me, I think it just kind of made sense to like to make that jump myself and to make music that sounded like that. And I did originally try to like make music with samples and that sort of thing, and make realistic sounding music, if you want to call it that. But I realized that like that chip tunes and things that go beep boop were a little bit more like a little bit more my style. And like I remembered the rules, so to speak, when I was encouraged by Jake Kaufman, if you've ever heard of him. He did the music for Shovel Knight. That's probably one of his most.
Ah, okay, okay.
He and I used to talk on IRC all the time, and he encouraged me to look up sound chip limitations and like look up the hardware side of things, look up why certain things aren't possible on systems, that sort of thing, and basically learn how to follow the rules. And so when I started doing that, it just kind of opened up a whole new world. I was like, oh yeah, that's how the sound chip sounded. You can't do that. You can't do this, and then just move to the next system and do. And so I just kind of sucked all of that back in, and took a second go at it. Haven't really looked back.
That's awesome.
Lizzie, did you have a question?
Well, yeah, because I was wondering, were you like inspired, like for example, if you listen to the music in the Mario games, like
Mm-hmm.
you kind of expect the levels to almost be the same. But did you enjoy when you started to play, like for example, the Sonic games? Because every level did give you different music. Like, were you ever inspired by the music from like the SEGA games, like Sonic, for example?
Oh, sure. In fact, so one of the big things about that I find really cool about one of the things that I really find cool about games is just how they change everything up. Like, I mean, even in the Mario games, yeah, that's the same. That's pretty much that's pretty much the same song in every stage. But what I like about, say, let's pick Mario World, right? Mario World does that ba 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 ba. But like, if you listen to the haunted house music, it's the same music, but it's done in a different style. So it's
Hmm.
or underwater, it's the sort of lackadaisical version of it, or like whatever. So like you're learning about different musical styles, and then when you switch over to Sonic, everything's kind of the same style in a way. I mean, obviously you've got a different mood to the music.
Hmm.
Like Casino Zone is definitely different from Green Hill Zone, but like the instrument set is the same. So like you're learning how to use those instruments in a different way rather than learning how to do different musical styles and whatever. So there's a different takeaway from each and every game in its own right, and you kind of like you can sort of put yourself in the shoes of the composer, and be like, so I wonder what they were told, when they had to write this soundtrack and whatever. And actually, I got to ask Howard Drawson, who is the guy that did the music for Sonic Spinball. Uh,
Oh.
I was like, hey, so what was this like? And, like, how did that work and whatever? And he's like, so, like, he's like, they gave me a Genesis and they gave me something called Gems. And, like, you write the music in the software and you use MIDI and whatever, but you just write it on your keyboard, and then you send those files over to, like SEGA of Japan or whatever. And there's a guy over there that takes the files that you send them and basically ports them to the cartridge, and like that was their process, like when he was writing music for that. And then he also wrote the music for Comic Zone, and he's like, so, for Comic Zone, one of the cool things I really liked, he mentioned, was that he got to do his own guitar patches. So he was like really proud of his like distorted metal guitars and Comic Zone and whatever, because like he was really pushing the limit, and he was coming up with like new instruments and new sounds that like you didn't hear in a game before. Because like if you've played a lot of the, like, say, early Super Nintendo games, so they're kind of all using the same bog standard sound set, and a lot of the early Genesis games are the same way, where they're just kind of like using default instruments and whatever. And electronic music in general, like just dance music or whatever, kind of suffers from the same problem. Like, like when you get a musician that's starting out, is like, I want to make dance music, I want to make dubstep, whatever. Like, they always just kind of use those default instruments, and they use them until you're bored of them. So, like, I just put out a Sega Genesis album, which is also doubled as a soundtrack for a Steam game. And one of the things that really inspired me was Howard telling me that he did his own instruments for Comic Zone. Like, so I went and I tried to do the same thing. I tried to, like, come up with my own instruments, and I was like, this is electronic music, this is dance music. I do want people to be able to tell sort of that it was done on a Genesis, but I want to kind of push the limits a little bit, because Sega had that. Now there are no limits.
You should well, just a suggestion. It is Sonic's 25th anniversary. Maybe you should do one for Sonic.
I could. It takes a lot of investment, so I don't know if I'd make it in time. But maybe.
Well, you got all year, so I'm just thinking.
Sonic, for somebody so quick, Sonic sure takes a long time to celebrate a birthday. Let me tell you.
All year, right?
Yeah. Mario's quick. He's just like, just reprint something from the old back catalog, right? Give him Mario All Stars again on like a DVD and call it good.
That's true.
Sonic is like, no, I need like at least one new game in each version of the canon. I need like comics on Free Comic Book Day. I need guest appearances by Miss Hedgehog. I need all this stuff, or it's just not my birthday.
All right, hold on. I have an idea. Does this work? I'm gonna try something, and yeah.
Well, Retro Reload is known for its technical glitches, so.
How are you getting? Let me see if you can get beep boops.
I hear something.
Yes.
I heard a boop boop.
Okay, so maybe.
Here we go.
Does that sound like something?
It sounded like something, yeah.
I like PlayStation 1 startup screen.
Well, that might be kind of close to what it was. All right, so I have a little piece of something that someone, basically someone for their podcast, asked me if I could write something that sounded like Casino Zone but wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can like find it real fast, actually, Casino.
Yay!
Let me see.
I could tell Lissy's about ready to go. Like she's jumping inside. She's like, please, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please.
Please be like a secret hidden song from Sonic.
All right. We can give you a couple. A bonus. I have two. So that was supposed to sound just like Sonic, like Green Hill or something like that. And I'll let you listen to that first.
Okay. Oh, cool. I like it.
Oh, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's my takeoff on Sonic, because like people like they want to use like the Sonic music for the intro to their podcast, but that's kind of like not legal. So Like, instead, they asked me for a sound alike, and like that's what popped up. So this other guy asked me for Casino Zone, different person. And here's the Casino Zone one. And I noticed after I wrote this, maybe you can tell me or be listening. It kind of also sounds like something else, but I didn't realize it until after I was done. But he liked it anyway, so it was fine.
I like that.
You're
I really
good.
did.
That was the Casino Zone knockoff.
Yes, a talent man.
I mean, so like that's maybe that kind of helps the people that are still like, what's a chiptune? Like giving you an idea of what I'm writing and what I'm working with. So those were both those are both possible on a real Sega Genesis, and was coming out of a sound chip emulator for the sound chip in the Genesis.
Cool.
That is awesome. I listened to some of your stuff on SoundCloud, and it sounded very. The stuff I listened to on SoundCloud sounded very Capcom inspired.
Okay, I could hear that. You might have heard. So there's some. What's on my SoundCloud? There's a bunch of the Genesis tracks. I think there are the two tracks I did for Zircon, Andrew Aversa, which they might be called Z-Boss and Z-Town, or they might be called the names of the tracks, or they might just have a funny joke because SoundCloud's where I put all my like works in progress. So one of those is Commodore 64, and one of those is NES. I probably even have them. Like, is the Capcom one that you're talking about? Is that this one?
That's definitely one of them. Yep.
Yeah. So this is like the overworld music or whatever for Dungeon Mans, and he wanted a remix. I was like,
Nice.
how about a direct cover on the NES? What would it sound like as an NES song? And so like he got that. But then the Commodore is just like tons more gritty. So like. That's definitely like a Let's Kick Some Ass song.
Oh yeah.
Boss battle, so that makes sense, right?
So what games have you done soundtracks for?
So there's a Game Boy demake of Super Smash Brothers called Super Smash Land. It's not actually on a Game Boy, but it utilizes the aesthetic, runs in the same resolution, is in theory possible on a Game Boy. And when I wrote the music, I actually wrote it with that in mind. So like all the music doesn't use the white noise channel, and then all the sound effects are white noise in the game, so that we could, like because we had to sort of be creative. He wrote it in Game Maker.
Okay.
But it's actually, if you've ever heard of Rivals of Ether, it's kind of a similar game or whatever. And it's developed by one of the guys that worked on the new Killer Instinct, and he's like, so this like Super Smash Land was his, I think it was his college thesis project, and he just wanted some music for it, and I like found him tweeting like, hey, does anyone write Game Boy music on Twitter or something like that? And
I do.
That's pretty cool.
so that was fun. So Super Smash Land. Then I also around the same time, just a little bit later, did something called the music for Shuttle Scuttle, which is this dude up in St. John's, one-man game studio, does all of his own art and game stuff, and just wanted some chiptune stuff to go along with it, and he poked me and he was like, so I'm looking for NES. I'm really into Batman, 1943, and Blaster Master, and it needs to be energetic and heroic. Go. Like, I had seen like the title screen to the game, and that's it. I was like, okay, well, if I bury myself in some Sunsoft games, like maybe I can just write him something. So I wrote him like an intro song and sent it to him, and he was like, I love this. Send me more of that. And went through writing the music for that. The Genesis soundtrack I was just talking about is a game called Where's My Mommy, which is a crappy LOL game on Steam. It's actually about poop, so I can say that. It's a runner. That's that soundtrack. I'm working with a guy that used to work for Rockstar. He's doing something called Treachery in Beatdown City, and it's kind of a beat 'em up with tactics menus, if you can imagine that. So like, pretend that you're playing like Double Dragon or River City Ransom or like one of those NES beat 'em ups or whatever, but then you hit a button and you open up like a moves menu, right? And so like there's this overworld map, and you go into fights with certain kinds of characters, and you have like this kind of long drawn out battle with, like you can just like hit a button to punch them, but that's just kind of a one-off thing, right? Like you're actually kind of like fighting with them and coming up with combos on the fly and whatever. And I thought that was really cool. So he's currently working on stuff for that, and so I'm doing like NES, like there's some Ninja Gaiden influence in there, and of course I'm taking like some RCR and Double Dragon, and both Tecmo and Technos influence for those.
Well, speaking of beat 'em ups, though, since you brought up the subject, that brings me to my next would you rather.
Oh dear.
Right. So, Jeremy.
Damn.
if you had to be saved by video game superheroes, right?
Okay.
Would you rather be saved by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or the Battletoads?
I like Battletoads.
Battletoads, why?
I don't know, just because. I don't know. I just think of the GameStop prank calls. Do you have Battletoads?
Lizzy.
Yeah, Battletoads? No, they hang up.
Lizzy, Battletoads or the Ninja Turtles?
The Ninja Turtles, because I'm a big fan of pizza, so I know what we'll be doing after they save me.
Nice, nice. Going out and getting some pizza, right? Although April O'Neil will have to stay home, right?
Yeah, it depends what version we're talking about. The 80s version.
I was gonna say, would you share the Ninja Turtles with April O'Neil, or is she like, no, she got to get her own turtles?
No, get your own, man. I mean, you have your chest open most of the time anyway, so.
Didn't she have the turtles first?
So?
Okay.
Depending on the canon that you're following, she created the turtles. So in a way, it'd be kind of ill, right?
Yeah, we're like, that's your mommy, man.
So,
I mean, he might get jealous, but I mean.
I know. I don't think I'm gonna be able to entertain the Mikey April O'Neil love thing in Ninja Turtles 2 now quite the same. Until you mentioned, that's your mommy, I'm like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. But so Brendan rather, what about you?
I'm gonna have to go with so my Ninja Turtles answer was sort of stolen there because I'd get to eat pizza, and I am a fan of pizza. Case in point, my stage gear.
Ooh.
You have a pizza sweater?
I have a pizza onesie.
Well, I say that's a onesie.
Wow.
Okay. It's a onesie. Actually, it's there was that picture that was a meme on online that when you got mad love for pizza, and there's the dude in the pizza onesie with a pizza and like eating it off of like a pizza plate or whatever.
Yeah.
I've got all that stuff, and I've been wearing this thing for like a year, so that at least. So that kind of hurt my feelings, No. But I So the Battletoads are a little bit more badass than the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
I think the Ninja Turtles make up for it in both attitude, not like bad attitude or having an attitude, but just like there's 4 of them, and I think that 4 Ninja Turtles or 2 Battletoads. Well, I guess you could pick the third, depending on which game you play.
Yeah.
Like they still get it done, and yes, we would be able to get pizza afterwards. So.
All right. Well, I think we this gives us an excellent segue back into the interview. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you is on the Wikipedia. It says that you already mentioned speaking and hosting workshops about game music and chiptunes, and you mentioned like what you cover in there. But it also mentions on Wikipedia that that you were not just obsessed with video games in your youth, but you were obsessed with Saturday morning cartoons.
Ooh.
Reasonable.
So, is Wikipedia lying? Are we being made to believe a lie, or is it true? And which Saturday morning cartoons would you say were most obsession worthy?
Turtles is definitely high on the list. And right after Ninja Turtles was usually I can't remember. I think it was Garfield and Friends. So I just record both. Garfield and Friends was pretty good. Gosh, what else? Captain N was pretty awesome. Despite not being about Sega, but like that was sort of my like gateway.
Captain N?
Nintendo.
You mean Nintendo?
Captain N, the Game Master.
Captain
That
N.
wasn't Sega. That was Sega didn't really like exist.
Sega didn't really have. I mean, there was Sat AM, but like which I know you talked about with Tom. But like Sat AM didn't come into the picture like until basically the '90s when Sonic thing. And like so it's like when you're looking for like cartoons about video games, like you're talking like late '80s because I'm old.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. We're all old.
Captain N and the Zelda cartoon, and like Super Mario Super Show. Although I had to watch that on cable, and we didn't get cable for all of my childhood, so like that was not a thing as much as watching Captain N on Saturday morning.
Now I wonder. Weren't you a little surprised when you watched Captain N and when when he finally met Mega Man and Kid Icarus? You're like,
attitudes of the characters were hilarious in a like not very canon way. Like I mean, Mother Brain is just this like stuck up, like woman or whatever. Like what do we have? Belmont was like the pretty boy.
he was a jerk.
Well, I mean, everyone on the show was sort of stuck up in a way, I guess.
But Mega Man was like, have you been smoking? I mean, what? I mean, he just sounded like,
or whatever. Like, I'm not saying that Captain N got anything right. It probably didn't, but it was still a lot of fun to watch. And, like, since I didn't already have Castlevania or Mega Man or like any of that, I was playing Wonder Boy and Ys and like Outrun and Altered Beast. Then like that was like an interesting like view into the other gaming world when I wasn't borrowing a Nintendo, I guess is like.
So what shows did you just were you aware of, but just kind of like, oh no way, I'm not getting into that. Was there any or a guilty pleasure? We'll even say like maybe something that you're like, no, I shouldn't, but I have to.
I mean, I think I started, and this is here's one for you. I didn't get into Animaniacs much. I liked Animaniacs, but I just didn't watch it as much because like I was starting to get out of cartoons when Animaniacs started like becoming popular. And so that just like wasn't as much of a thing for me. But like I mean I still like it. I just
yeah, my wife loves Animaniacs. So
great cartoon. Like I don't have a problem with it, but
no, you're okay. It's all right. She's not gonna come like slash your tires or anything. Don't worry about it.
My address with her or anything.
So that wasn't a warning to apply for witness protection or anything.
Okay. But I really did like watching a lot of stuff on Nick, but like I mentioned, we didn't get cable for like all of my childhood. So like Ren and Stimpy was definitely free whenever I could get Ren and Stimpy.
Excellent.
I don't know. There's so many cartoons. I could just like rattle off lists, but I just
Well, we're close on time, so
yeah.
I have one final question, and it's part of our Would You Rather. And I have to amend the question. I have to amend the question for Lizzie. But the rest of you are gonna get this question. So the first question is, if it was the end of the world, like there was an extinction level event, right? And somehow you and for the guys, you and two female video game characters like survived this apocalyptic event, and you had to choose one of them to repopulate the world with. Right?
Here.
Which would you choose to repopulate the world with?
How did I know this is where this was going?
I had to save it as the third question, because if I threw it out there as the first one, you'd been like, not playing, not playing. But now we're committed. We're like, we got 2 out of 3 questions answered, so we have to do this, right?
What are our choices?
All right. So the choice is the choice is
Mark on your face.
yeah. See if I can get it up. The choice is Princess Toadstool from the original Super Mario Brothers,
She's a looker.
or the toad that tells you the princess is in another castle from the original Mario Brothers.
Isn't Toad a dude? So I would probably choose Princess Toadstool.
Well, I'd say in the first game it's androgynous. It could be either.
Could be either.
Yes. So
Okay.
Princess Toadstool.
I'm gonna choose the real deal over the not sure.
All right.
I'd like to know what I'm getting into. That's all.
All right, Jeremy. What about you?
Same. I'm gonna go with the sure thing on this one.
Yeah, I would also go with the sure thing. Lizzie, for you the question is slightly modified because of gender. So for you, your choices are
Mario Luigi.
no, nowhere near that simple. Nowhere near that simple. Dr. Robotnik or Bowser?
What the fuck? Where do I get that?
Oh dear.
Oh, damn. Uh, uh well, I guess Dr. Eggman.
Dr. Eggman?
Yeah.
All right. I part of me is
But
not
I have to be
surprised.
on top because that thing is fat. So.
My goodness. Well, I appreciate you guys. You know, fortunately, none of us are gonna. These are video game characters, so none of us are gonna get stuck in an Armageddon with, with Dr. Eggman or Bowser. None of us have to choose between Princess Toad, from the original game. So the sure thing, but uglier than sin, or the Toad, which I don't even know what Toad was in the first game. I don't think they made him like actually have a gender until the next game. And then in certain versions of the canon, they don't even have a gender. I think they're like honestly like gender agnostic or neutral or whatever. They don't believe in a
Like
gender.
Piccolo.
Right. Yes. So, and although it would be cool, I would take being saved by either the Ninja Turtles or the Battletoads. Either of those would be like bucket list achievement unlocked, right? So saved by badass mutants that know how to beat stuff up. So, but I want to thank you for coming on the show. We already give one more shout out for where people can download and where people can listen.
I would love it if you would go to inversephase.com. Inverse is in the opposite. INVERSE. Phase is PHASE, like I'm going through a phase. .com. Buy some stuff on Bandcamp, listen on Spotify or Google Play, or if you don't want to use those, then just click randomly on links and flail your arms while you.
Yes, click randomly on links and accept any PayPal buttons that might come up.
Yeah. I am sorry, the C prompt does not work at the bottom of the web.
Oh, that was so cool when I saw that. That was the first thing I tried to click there and like type stuff, and nothing happened.
It will soon. I actually have some code that I can put in there, but I'm more focused on building a synthesizer right now, so that's just going to have to wait.
Nice. That is okay. We will wait for that because, folks, if you haven't heard his music already, you really should. He's got options available where you can listen to things for free. You got options where you can, listen to things and, purchase them for not a lot and listen to them on the way to work. Listen to them, in the doctor's office, wherever it may be that you want to have your sound library with you. So I would encourage you to do so. It's a really good listen. And anybody that's taken me up on that when I recommended the same thing for Curious Quail knows that I don't just make stuff like that up. So check it out. His music is great. If you haven't heard it and you don't get to experience it, it's your own fault.
Don't forget Viking guitar.
Yes, Viking guitar. We also had Viking guitar on. So folks, this has been Retro Reload. It's been a hoot and a holler. Like us on the Twitters and the Facebook. Share us on the YouTubes. We are not available on Grindr, despite what previous hosts might have claimed in the past.
You guys have a Patreon?
What's that?
You guys have a Patreon?
I don't think we have it. What is Patreon?
Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
Oh, really? I have a Patreon. I'll shout out my Patreon. I'll be that shameless plug person. No,
Awesome.
It's like support a person per creation type thing or per month. So it basically kind of like it's sort of like a paid fan club in a way where you can like kick in a certain amount, and different creators have it set up different ways. Like mine is per creation. So like when I release a new track, you can get the track ahead of time, or when I release a new album, you can get the album ahead of time by kicking in a certain amount or whatever per month. And if I don't release anything that month, then you just don't pay.
That's
and
great.
some people are putting stuff out on a regular basis. Like some of the podcasts will do it this way because they like have an episode, every other day or every other week or something like that, and they'll just have a monthly campaign where you just support a certain amount per month, and sometimes you can hear an episode a day early or something like that. But that might be a good way for you guys to get some support. I do that. Works out pretty well. That's definitely a way to hear my music early if anyone wants.
So, folks, you heard it here. You can check them out on Patreon, and I want to thank everybody that has followed along and enjoyed our games. Tune in next week. We will have another interesting lineup of topics, maybe a guest. We'll see. We're working on some really interesting stuff for you guys in the future, but you're going to have to stay tuned to see what it is. So check out us, check out Inverse Phase, and in the meantime, have fun.